Silo, episode 7, titled Radio, was another episode that happened. Now, this was a good episode, a much higher pace, it felt like, than last week's sort of filler episode, in my opinion. I thought this was a solid episode, a bunch of different storylines going down. I definitely like the ascension of both the Juliet and the DC storyline. It feels like we're finally getting somewhere with the DC storyline, at least. With Juliet, I don't know where this is going or how it's going to happen. We had Lucas and Kennedy leave the silo in an all-time fake out, which, spoiler alert, if you're watching this, I don't know why you've gotten this far, but spoiler alert for the rest of episode 7 of Silo season 3. Yeah, I thought this was a solid episode. It's been good. Like, I feel like Silo season 3, I saw some Twitter hate recently, and I'm like, this season's been fine. Like, I think this season's been better than season 2 so far, and we have 3 episodes left. This is going to be a shocking ending to the season. I don't know where anything's going. Like, we have so many storylines we need to wrap up before the end of the season. Bunch of side quests going on. Maybe the side quests aren't as like interesting to me as the main points, but the main plots are really, and we're getting like the Avengers assembled. Like, all the guys are working, all the people we know are working together, at least when it comes to the silo. And then you have new characters being introduced in the DC world. Charlotte's back in the mix, so a bunch of stuff happening in Silo right now. I think we're in a good place with Silo where you know these last couple episodes are going to be crazy. I don't know where it goes. You can kind of see the visions start to form, at least for where the actual Silo is going to go in season 4. And I'm still curious: are we going to get to Daniel and Helen being in a season 4, or will their arc end in season 3? I feel like it's too shallow to wrap it all up in 3 episodes. I guess like maybe if they get one episode that's all about them, but like I think they're going to be in season 4, guys. I think we're heading towards a split season 4, which I'm not too happy about. I feel like this should have been a one season arc, but it is enjoyable. I do like both of their characters, so we'll have to just get into that. But starting off of the top of the episode. So last week we had Juliet talking to the AI, and the AI negotiating. The AI did not want to send out Shirley and Knox to go to outside and to clean, or to not to clean, but to go outside and go to the other silo to rescue the kids, quote unquote. The AI thought it was too big of a risk, so they instead agreed to send Kennedy and Lucas. Kennedy, bro, I'm kind of sick of Kennedy's shtick at this point. He's like, I don't want to go. It's like, brother, you've been trying to get outside your whole entire life. You started a rebellion. You were the figurehead of a rebellion to get outside. You believe there's like this clean air out there and like beautiful things out there, but he's like, I don't want to go unless I can do whatever I want after Lucas gets to the other silo and brings him back. And I think there might be a situation where like I predicted this last episode. I think Kennedy might die, and I think Lucas will be out there like, oh, I'm stranded, or like I need help, or something will happen where he like stumbles upon the wrong silo. But I don't think Kennedy's long for this world, and we'll talk about what actually happens during this episode. But it feels like Kennedy doesn't really have much left to do on the show, where Lucas Kyle is armed with like a bunch of information, but I guess he kind of spread that to everybody. So I don't know what else. I like. We'll just get to it in a second, but Kennedy agrees to go as long as he drops Lucas off, and then after that he can do whatever he wants. So yeah, we'll have to see, because we don't really know what's outside of this little area. Like, is it habitable, or is this just one the Atlanta we know now? Is Atlanta just fucked and everywhere else is fine, or is this like the last humans on Earth type of vibe? So curious to see if we can answer towards that. Probably not at the end of season 3, but maybe towards the beginning of season 4, middle of season 4, we'll find out those answers. So big Robert Sims episode as well. I feel like this whole season's been sort of pseudo following his relationship with Camille, and he actually has the smart idea to drink some other things other than the water. So when you hear the water's been poisoned, well, not poisoned, but the water's been tainted with this memory loss drug, you're like, oh shit, you're fucked, because you have to drink water to live. But he's like, how about we drink like wine, milk, other things that aren't made from the water, so that at least gives like a plot reason explanation for why they're not just getting fucked by the memory drug. And Carla McClane was like trying to chug that water this episode. She was trying to drink the water like 2 or 3 times. I was like, girl, what are you doing? But yeah, Robert basically tells Juliet, I can't see you again. I'm being followed now. So I think the episode actually opens, like the first scene we see of Robert's him like realizing he has a tail. He's been through this the whole time. Remember him in season 1? He was basically doing all the dirty work for Bernard. He knows when he has a tail behind him. So Judicial's tailing him. That's from Camille. Their relationship's on the rocks, which we'll get to at the end of this episode. But we actually get Lucas and Kennedy going out. of the silo, which was I thought was pretty fast because I thought this would be like another build-up episode, and then they would go out, or they wouldn't even make it outside. Like something would happen. So like the fact that this happened in the first like 10 minutes of this episode, I was like, oh shit, like what's going on here? Because I just don't know where this storyline's headed with the safeguard and cutting off the supply and cutting off the poison. I just can't predict. I don't even have the thoughts to say. I don't know where this is going. Sometimes this storyline moves so fast, and then sometimes it moves so slow. Like for example, they go out in the first 10 minutes, and then like nothing really happens with the storyline besides like they maybe to kill people, but then they don't. Anyways, Lucas and Kennedy actually go outside just like that. So I thought this was probably my favorite moment of the episode was Lucas seeing the stars. If you remember from season 1, he had been kind of stargazing on that little picture they have outside the cafeteria. You can see on the screens, and he was kind of geeking out over that with Juliet. So it was cool to see him actually be able to see the stars out there and about in the world. But the shocking part is they're met with gunfire. We hear this buzzing sound, and then all of a sudden sounds like they've been shot out there in the field, and they leave us for a long time thinking that just like that Lucas and Kennedy are dead. But I guess it's like one of the TV tropes, if you don't see the death on screen, they're not actually dead. But I was like thinking, like watching other scenes during the episode, I was like, is Lucas, Kyle, and Kennedy just dead, and we like are never going to see them again? Like what the hell? I didn't even figure there was something else. I was like, that's such a lame way. I fell for it. I fell for it, guys. I was like, that's such a lame way to kill them off. But they're supposedly gunned down by gunfire. I am guessing this is some sort of drone situation, and it was a scary visual of Lucas is like approaching one of the people who had been there, sitting down in the ground, and you can see like it's like a father like comforting a daughter, like they just know they're screwed. So is that the air, or was that like the whatever drone attacked them that was doing that, and they're like, all right, we're done. I'm guessing the air, but like, it's getting sketchy out there, so maybe even more threats outside of the silo than we even initially thought. So I was a little floored by that. And the AI, Camille talks to the AI, and the AI says they've been neutralized. So the AI believes Lucas, Kyle, and Kennedy are dead, or is this all a game by the AI to like know that everything's going on? I feel like we might be getting to a point where everything's a little like mind screwy. Like, is the AI just like tip of the ice or like bottom of the iceberg, knows everything's going on and is like faking all this stuff, or is the AI just like actually kind of dumb? It's hard to tell. And I don't know I think we need more clarity on what actually happened to Lucas and Kennedy. I could see that being like the opening scene of next week's episode of like what actually happened to Lucas and Kennedy. Um, but yeah, don't worry. Are not actually dead because we don't see the dead bodies. But the AI says to Camille in that conversation that they have been neutralized. So we'll have to see where this goes in the future because I honestly don't know. Back in DC, we meet Per Stenson. And I actually kind of like this guy. And I don't know where I know him from, but the actor seems so familiar that I'm like, I meant to look it up. I actually did look it up. I was like, Per Stenson, but it was like book spoilers. I was like, I'm not reading that. And then they didn't have the actor. So maybe now they'll have the actor. That's like a day later. I'll look into that. But he looks super familiar. Nonetheless, I did kind of like this guy. He's like this billionaire who's like, he's almost like the guy in Succession, the guy who's kind of like the CEO, rich, like kind of prick, but he's like a cool prick. At least that's the vibe I got from him. And he's like, they wanted me to, I made a unicorn, but they wanted me to hunt it down for 10 billion. So I was like, fuck that. I thought this was kind of a funny character, and he's like signed NDAs. His intro to the group is like so cold, but it's like so funny. So he meets Daniel and Helen. They all have to sign their lives away to know the big secret of to save the world. And he even per sentence like, you want a milli? You got a milli each. And Helen doesn't even want that. She's like, as long as I can write a story in 5 years. I'm guessing that story never gets written, and if it does, it's silenced or she doesn't remember what happened. That's going to be my shocking prediction with Helen's little story she thinks she's going to have. But yeah, I don't think that story is going to go anywhere. But right now I think Per Stenson's a good guy. Like it seems like we're led to believe he's like the chill guy. Maybe there's like that tinge of like something else is going on here, but there's nothing really been like too evidential against both him and the senator, and like even the aide to the senator. It's like there's nothing that's been like, oh, this is bad. That one guy is suspect as hell. The old man who was like following around Charlotte in the first episode. I don't trust that motherfucker one bit. But he's the only one who's given me like any like sense of like danger or like misbehavior or something. Like Per Stenson seems chill. The senator seems chill. But I'm sure someone will do something bad in the last couple episodes here and like turns. It'll be a dramatic turn at one point, but who knows? Per Stenson initial impression I thought was good. Now we have more leading into this sort of underlying story that I haven't been a big fan of. I've been vocal about that. I haven't loved the Billings sort of storyline of it all, where it's like him and Hank just side questing. Feels like a waste of time in the episodes. Like I don't know. We've unlocked that supply is running out of light bulbs. We've unlocked like some sort of lore with Knox's father, who apparently faked his own death, which is interesting. And then now they're going to the person who was supposed to be the what's it called, the head of the shadow to the head of supply, her father, and is like, hey, what's going on here? This guy was kind of giving Orla Kent shit at the first council meeting, or the only council meeting that ended up happening, and he is not receptive to Billings' questioning, which has been a common theme. Basically, the guy in the wheelchair, or I think his name is Mark, told Billings to eat shit. Knox told Billings to eat shit. So nobody respects Billings. It's tough to watch for Billings, who I actually like. But yeah, that's been a common theme this season of Billings just getting shit on, and like Hank having to be like the middleman of like, hey, he's good police, believe in him, answer his questions. It's been rough for Billings, but don't know where this storyline's heading. Honestly, I really don't care at this point. Like, just tell us who killed Orla Kent so we can get on with it. It's been a really bad third storyline in my opinion. Now, like this Knox stuff, I guess is kind of interesting with his father, what's going on there. That's a little intriguing, but it's like, it's just, I don't know. I just have lacked care for this third storyline going on. I feel like with the DC storyline thrown in as well, it's hard to like fully invest in three different storylines, especially when it's like a minor character like Billings. Just in my honest opinion, and Hank, like that's the crew we're running with, but whatever. I'll just have to find out what happened to Orla Kent. Anyways, back with Juliet and the gang. They've made a surprise guest. Bernard's pulled some strings, and welcome back to the show, Gloria Hildebrandt. If you remember from season 1, I believe she was the one who was one of like the tortured souls through the memory loss drug. She had lost all of her things. I believe somebody went up to her and was interrogating her. I think it was Juliet probably, but there was probably like Patrick Kennedy involved in there. She's back. Now, she was part of this group called the Flame Keepers, which was introduced to us on the previously on and was kind of this like running thing the past couple of seasons, that there's a mysterious group. We don't really know what their motivations are, what they're up to, but she is one of them. We also learned that George's mother was also a Flame Keeper, so that's maybe where he got his adventurous spirit. And she is back with the Mission Diary, which Bernard classifies as one of the two biggest pieces of information out there. Now, there is mention of a document out there that's this like big grab that has everything on it potentially, and I think that might be connected to Daniel. I don't know. There's something that like, I don't know. I was reading between the lines there. I think that could be something that Daniel's involved in. Was this like original document that they had? But I don't know. I'm kind of, I don't want to throw too many theories at the wall just to be wrong, especially with the DC people where like I don't know where that's going at all. So she is mentioning the story of a porter who was around, I guess, 150 years ago, as Salvador Quinn. And this all kind of coincides when Julia has to make the choice of whether she wants to bomb Judicial to get access to the pipeline, or to wait for Kennedy, or to figure out a different plan. And that they keep putting pressure on her, like, you have to be the one to decide. You're mayor. You're a badass bitch. And she's like, I just don't want to decide. That happens like 2 or 3 times this episode. But she ultimately makes the decision to blow up Judicial after this. But due to this story that Gloria tells, where essentially once everyone gets drugged with the memory loss water, you either forget everything and you're like, fuck, like I'm so disoriented, I'm gonna die. Or there's the other alternative of the safeguard where everyone just dies anyway. So it's like we gotta just full send this, because even though some people may die, it's better than like everyone forgetting who they are and everyone forgetting everything and just moving on in this like fake life and resetting everything, basically like everything was for nothing. And it comes down to Juliet. What is she going to decide? We'll get into that in a second. Back to DC for a minute. So Charlotte has rejoined the group in a very suspect way, I believe, that just personally. She's all of a sudden back and normal and fine and humming. And it's like, didn't you not even remember who you were? And like you freaked out at Daniel and Helen. And like I guess the doctor's done good work, but there's something going on here where Charlotte's like talking and she's like, they just tell me not to forget what happened, or like you can like basically, oh, what's the word, like selective forgetting or selective memory. Her selective memory is like excluding the mission to Iran, which I still want to know what the fuck happened. So I hope people are able to get it out of her. She was just in there, and there was this dust that like took over. That shit was crazy. That's one of the bigger mysteries of this whole season to me. But basically, there's like the selective memory. The doctor for Charlotte had a traumatic experience with his daughter, where they got up early, they drove miles and miles, and he kept pushing when he should have stopped and rested, just so they could see this place at sunrise. Truck crashes into them. The daughter dies. He was actually holding his daughter in his arms. Super sad stuff, but he doesn't remember any of it. And he says, "I wish I didn't remember that." And that kind of poked out to me like, and I don't want to be whatever, but like, wouldn't you want to remember your last moments with your daughter or stuff like that? But I guess it's so, I feel like that's a weird moral kind of question that this show is asking us at this point. But the doctor seems to think it's better if you just completely forget the traumatic experience. So that's what's going to happen to Charlotte, which isn't good because we need that intel of what happened, because maybe something is going to lead on with that. But who knows? And I also think there was something with Charlotte and the aide. There was definitely like a little romantic kindling going on there. I could see that a mile away. And then, obviously Daniel and Helen will hook up at some point. I believe that. Yeah, that's really all we're doing on the plane. Burr Stenson's fucking around on the plane, talking to Helen. Cool. Back in the silo, Juliet makes her choice. She says, "You know what? We're going to blow up Judicial." And she sends in like the fourth rung henchman. I believe this is like the shadow to the shadow. This guy kind of came in late. He's like a mechanical. I don't know his name. It's like Caleb, maybe. I don't know. But he comes in late, or he's been a big part of, or he's been a small part of the team, and he's leading this sort of exhibition group along with Billings' wife. She's just part of their group now as well. Who's taking care of that kid, by the way? Because she's all around, and Billings is like interviewing people and like wasting time himself. So who's watching their kid? We might need a wellness check on that kid. But they make the decision to blow up Judicial while Sims and Camille are in there. The guys like two big dogs just walked in. Sims and Camille are here after Camille makes Sims go with her. We'll get into that scene next. But they walk in and it's like, oh shit, they're going to blow this up with Robert and Camille in there. Obviously, probably too good to be true. I think I fell for traps, man. I was falling for easy TV traps this episode, believing that both Lucas and Kyle were dead and that they would actually blow up Sims and Camille like this. But Kennedy calls from outside just in time for them to blow off the operation, which was crazy, impeccable timing. And that also means Kennedy and Lucas are alive, which is crazy. Gunfire, buzzing. Don't remember if this happened to Juliet when she left the silo. I feel like it was a pretty peaceful walk to the other silo, but I might be forgetting the early part of season 2. So we'll have to find out what happened to Lucas and Kennedy if we ever do find out. I hope we do. I think that's an easy, open the episode next week, see what happened. But what do I know? And we'll have to see what happens. I think they're going to go into the wrong silo, or something's bad's going to happen to them. At least one of them, at least Kennedy. I feel like Kennedy's not long for this world, but who knows? But they're alive for now, which is crazy. Because I was actually thinking, like I said, are they just dead like that? Would they have just killed off those two characters right in front of our fucking faces? No, we need more build up to that. And Sims and Camille are both alive as well because they didn't blow up Judicial. So Camille had dragged Robert with her as she needs a witness to talk to the nurse. I guess they have the nurse in custody, and Robert obviously worked with the nurse. But this is the only place where Camille can talk to Robert openly, which, like I said, that AI voice is out there listening, man. And Juliet said shit on the stairs. I think the AI voice might have heard that, but whatever. There's no reason why they couldn't just talk in their own house. I guess they're worried about Anthony, who Anthony's like, I'm not a big fan of Anthony. He's being very rebellious towards his mother. The whole jacket problem, obviously, we can talk about that with Robert. Brings the jacket to through Anthony to like give them 6 passes to Judicial. Camille figures it out. That's not his jacket. It's a whole ordeal, but Robert's still on our team, and Camille kind of knows what's going on. So this confrontation has been a little bit in the waiting. They've been kind of edging at it, and I still think they're a little bit edging at it. Like, let's just have this full-on conversation. But they're right in front of Amy, and Robert's like, do we have to do it in front of her? And Camille's like, yeah, we are. And Camille's like, just has the gun. That was just so funny. She's like, I'll just kill her. It was kind of like that scene of that woman in that show, like that famous clip where she's like pointing the gun, she like even points at her own mouth. If you know, you know. But Camille uses Amy as a bargaining chip, so we'll have to see if this confrontation leads to anywhere. I believe it just kind of ends on like a cliffhanger-ish note there for those two, the Sims. But yeah, this season's been a big part of that, is their relationship as Robert devolves more into the Juliet side of things, and Camilla devolves into following whatever the fucking AI tells her to do. Wrapping up in DC. They're flying in on helicopters. So they got off the plane from DC to Atlanta. By the way, that feels like that took way too long. That was probably like a 2 hour flight, but we got so much stuff happening on that flight. Anyways, they're in Atlanta, and they now get on helicopters and they're flying over this little land that Stenson's got for himself. And Daniel knows what it is. It's the big drill that drills the silo that we see at the bottom of Silo 17. Now, one question I did have, and I'm curious if you guys made it all the way to the end of this video, what do you guys think about this? So we know the drill was at the bottom of the silo we're in, right? In Silo 17, I think. I remember seeing that big ass drill down there. That's where they go down. That's where Bernard was hiding. So do you think there's gonna one of those drills for each silo, or that's the big one that made all the silos just in their silo? Um, I think there might be one for every one, and then that's how they tunnel down there, and that's it. So super interesting with where do we go from here? Can we please get a full Daniel and Helen episode? You know, I think it would have to be next episode if we get that. Just due to there being 3 episodes left, they're not going to leave out Juliet out of one of the last two. So yeah, let's see what happens with this. I hope we get more and more of it. I'm actually really interested in Daniel and Helen. I actually visited my grandma and her friend, and they said last week they stopped watching this show because of this storyline. I'm like, I wanted to say out loud, really, guys, this storyline's been great, but I'm not gonna try and push people around. So yeah, the big drill that creates the silos on Stenson's property. So Stenson has something to do with creating the silos. Obviously, this is where this is all headed with Daniel and Helen. They're not just like side questing randomly, but we'll have to see where this goes with them, the senator, and Stenson. Super excited to see about that, and that's where we leave off this episode, episode 7. Another solid episode. Probably not. I think there's a stronger episodes. I forget. I think 5 was pretty good. So 5 is probably my favorite episode so far, but 2 was good, I think, as well. So this is kind of like a middle of the pack episode for me as we near towards the end of season 3. But yeah, definitely not the worst episode either. So my favorite character of this episode, I'm going to give to Lucas. He just got the moment of him being able to stare at the stars. I felt pretty good for him. To be honest, no one really stuck out. This was a hard episode to choose a favorite character. You have Juliet being like thrown into the gun, but she's just like, I'm done. Like, I'm going to go take a walk. Besides that, like, Robert's cool, but he's also just Robert, and it's like common. Like, I don't really care, about. I've given Robert just flowers. This wasn't like a standout Robert episode. And then Daniel and Helen, I'm still like, I kind of liked Helen this episode, but I gave it to Lucas for his big moment. Least favorite, I'm going Camille. It's been I think I've given Camille least favorite every episode besides one, and yeah, she just gets worse and worse. Doesn't care about her kid at all. Is like being actively mean to Robert. Is like just listening to the AI voice no matter what it says. So I'm willing to give her a chance if she breaks out of that cycle, but it doesn't seem like she's willing to even break out of the cycle at all. Maybe her bringing Robert to this sort of private area where the AI probably can't hear them is a good sign, but I'll believe it when I see it. So we'll have to see. Bunch of storylines headed in a decent pace. We have 3 episodes to wrap it up, and I'm hoping Silo season 4 will be back next summer so we can kind of just figure out all the answers. They won't leave us hanging for too long. But it's been a solid season in my opinion so far. So excited to see how this all wraps up. I'll see you next week for episode 8, and then the following 2 weeks after. So it's been fun. Appreciate y'all staying to the end of the video, and as always, be easy, y'all.